Just to give you a little bit of insight on Wake Forest, you got Dave Clawson, head coach. He's currently 36-40 in 4 years at Wake Forest. And I read one of their articles from, I think it's a SB Nation website. Not a single skill position player returns on offense. So they're going to have to somehow get over that. Now, they do have Sam Hartman at quarterback, but they lost Sage Surratt. We know that. That was a big blow for their offensive hopes going into this year. Clemson is teed up as number one on their list in the week one, and it's a home game for them. That's good, but no fans for them. That's probably good, too, because most Clemson fans go to these games. But, you know, I looked through Twitter to see if I could find anything Wake Forest related, and I did find David Hale. Actually, David Hale on Twitter came out and listed Kenneth Walker III as one of the best running backs in the ACC. Now, we didn't have him on any of our lists because I think we had the guy from Louisville. We had, I believe, a guy from Miami maybe, and then obviously Clemson, both of Clemson's running backs. But I did not, and we had, I think, the Boston College guy. But Kenneth Walker was somebody that's kind of a new name for me. I really hadn't looked at him. He's not even really the starter. He's going to split time between the other running back there. But David Hill has him as a threat to keep an eye out on. And I'm really kind of interested to see what they can do. They also have another guy that Athlon Sports has mentioned, and that's Donovan Green, a redshirt freshman wide receiver who's the highest rated recruit ever for the Clawson era. So this is two guys. You got a running back there. You got a quarterback that we know is pretty good, even though he got injured at the end of the year, right? And then you got a wide receiver who's unproven but is a highly rated recruit. On the defense, they run a 4-2-5, and they return 7 players on defense. Now, you would normally think, guys, wow, this is great, returning 7 players on defense. However, their defense was horrible in the ACC. So returning of 7 guys that really were terrible in the ACC, maybe not a good thing. But it is lined or starred by Carlos Basham Jr. or Boogie Basham, right? Whatever you want to call him. But he is the elite of all elite defensive ends in the ACC, really in the country, one of the best. Probably, you know, I'm going to say probably the best defensive end. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong here, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they definitely got that going for them. But, I mean, can a defensive end really win a game for you? I don't think so. So there's going to have some problems there, and they've got a lot of questions in the secondary. So that's kind of a brief overview. The score last year, I mentioned it earlier, 52-3 in Clemson. And that's 49 points, guys. The spread right now, we're looking at an over-under of 60 from oddshark.com, and Clemson minus 32.5 right now. Now, this is early. We all know if you're listening to the podcast, maybe you're a couple of days after this show. We are live on Monday night. So we know that the numbers may change. It's not final numbers, but we have to go by the numbers during our show. So I'll start with you, Al. What's your thoughts on some of these guys? Walker, Green, the defense, just Wake Forest in general as we start week one?
Well, I got to tell you, they're going to really need that wide receiver because they lost their top 3 wide receivers. They lost most of their offensive line and their top running back and their quarterback, even though I tell you, I think they're going to lean on Sam Hartman here. I think Hartman's a good quarterback. The problem is he's just got nobody around him. So that receiver is going to have to make some plays. He's going to have to throw the ball up and see what happens. I kind of think their play here is to utilize the short passing game, try to get some quick routes and get the ball out of his hands quickly. I think we're going to be on him in a second. It's going to be tough, and Venables is going to have a plan for that too. So it's going to be real interesting to see what they're able to do. I think Hartman's kind of what they got. I'm not overly impressed on defense, except for, of course, Carlos Basham. Like you said, he's a stud. Only problem there is he's probably going to be against Jackson Carman, and he's a stud too. So I think their best. Their biggest strength is kind of neutralized for the most part, because I think we'll have a plan in place to keep him at bay for sure. And then Sam Hartman, of course, on the other side is going to have to deal with all the blitz packages that Venables brings as well. So I really think they've got to get the ball out quickly to have any kind of chance to have any offensive success. But yeah, I would. Are we picking now? Are you wanting my picks for the over/under and the spread, or are you going to save that to the end?
Save it till after Houston. I'll give you my pick, and then we'll go around there. But we will do it in this segment for the Clemson game because that's our highlight game for sure. But we're going to do it in this segment.
Yeah, so we're talking if we're talking about the matchups that I see, like Sam Hartman's the most talented player on the offense. The thing that I don't like, I don't like their system of let's hold the ball and mesh until the last possible second. That's what the Dave Clawson offense is, and it drives me nuts. If you can't run that offense with Jamie Newman, and you get blown out in Clemson, and Jamie Newman is one of the most athletic quarterbacks you've ever had in your history, I don't expect Sam Hartman to be able to do the same. So it's going to just be a matchup nightmare for Wake Forest offense. For their defense, once again, Carlos Basham, really good, but he was on the same team that got beat the last time we were in Winston-Salem by 60. I'm not saying that is going to happen exactly again, but I don't see anything to stop us to be able to run as hard or as much as we did against them the last time we were up there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it, and we're talking about the over-under. Last year was 55 points. Go figure. They look and go ahead and throw up 60 points as the over-under. They just like to do that to you. You know, let's see if they can do more. Most of these games I looked at the previous year, if those two teams played, they added about 3 to 5 points on all of these spreads, at least starting out the gate, which, so that kind of the status quo there for your bookies out there. But 60 points, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say under 60. And I know we got people in chat saying 70, 73. Clemson's going to get 60 by themselves. I don't know if Dabo. I don't see Wake Forest scoring any points. I really don't. I mean, this is going to be one of those games where I think Clemson comes out ready to play, frustrated about social justice, frustrated about, COVID, frustrated about online learning. I mean, just all this stuff. Frustrated about the Big 10, Big 12, all this stuff. Just frustrated about, in general, everything that's going on in the world, and just ready to unleash the eye of the tiger there. So, but when you have a head coach like Dabo Swinney who wants to play everyone and also doesn't really run the score up as much as he can, a lot of our opponents, or Clemson opponents, like to say, well, Clemson ran the score up. Well, honestly, you just couldn't stop Clemson with fourth string. That's really the problem. But I'm going to say under 60 because last year they were under 60. And I'm also going to say it's going to be kind of hard for Dabo to throw up 60, considering my theory is that Clemson is not going to allow a score in this game. If anything, just a field goal like last year. I'm going to say those two things. And then as far as the spread, I do think Clemson is going to win by 32 points. I mean, they won by 32 points last year. I think they go ahead and do it again this year. This one, to me, is an easy pick 'em because they did it last year.
I actually agree with you on both accounts. I think they're going to stay under the 60. It wouldn't surprise me to see him go over, but I mean, like you said, Dabo, I don't want to say he doesn't run up the score. It was 52-3, but I mean, he's doing a lot of that with backups. It's not like he's intentionally keeping the starters in. If our backups can score on you, well, you just need to get better, plain and simple. Okay, I don't even consider that running the score up. Just because the score is really high doesn't mean the score has been run up in the typical sense. Okay, of somebody like Louisville used to do with Lamar Jackson, keeping him in all the whole game. All right, we're going to get backups, and we've got good backups, plain and simple. I think it's going to be really fun to see whether he puts in the second string offensive line. A lot, since there are a lot of young guys on the second string offensive line, don't have a lot of good depth there. And hey, if they bring in the second string offensive line for Pumachan and Uiagalelei, are they going to be able to do anything? Are they going to have time to do anything? Are there going to be any holes? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But I think we're going to do just fine. It'll be good for these young guys to get in the game. But I think it's going to be under as well. But I do expect Clemson to cover that 32 points.
Yeah, I would say definitely we covered 32. I'm going to say we do cover the 60. I think we score over 60, not because Dabo is intentionally running it up. I harken back to 2018. We were able to score 77 on Louisville. Now, they were a really bad Louisville team, but it was mostly with our backups. And it was mostly 75, 69, 66-yard runs. And I don't think that's impossible for us to do, especially with the amount of young talent at running back that we have and the young talent that we have in our offensive line coming in. Who's to say where we get up 49-0 in the third quarter or 49-3 or whatever. And then you have a couple drives where Ches Malusi or DeMarcus Bowman or Mikey Dukes rip off a couple of big runs. I think it's going to be just right over that 60 mark, 62, 63, something like that. I think we're able to get that.